They didn't believe you'd leave. Not really. They thought you'd stay, like always, apologizing for your pain, shrinking for their comfort. But this time, you walked away. Quietly. Finally. And now, they can't unfeel the silence you left behind. What if I told you that the very moment they lost you was also the moment their unconscious began to scream? You see, Carl Jung believed that what we fail to face within returns as fate. And fate, in this case, came wearing your name and your absence. At first, they dismissed the pain, called it ego, called it closure. But it didn't go away. Because what they lost wasn't just you. It was the reflection of everything they buried: guilt, control, projection, shadow. And now? They're waking up. But too late. In this video, we're going to uncover the hidden contract they never admitted to, the unconscious wounds you carried for them, and the unexpected freedom that came the moment you stopped trying to be understood. Stay with me, because at the end, I'll reveal the shift that not only set you free, but made them confront the pain they tried to leave inside you. The wound they denied is now devouring them. Some people only realize what they've done when your absence screams louder than your presence ever did. The truth is, they didn't just lose you, they lost the mirror that reflected their own shadow. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." They projected their chaos onto you. And now, all that remains is silence echoing back their own darkness. Imagine a mirror shattering. You can't see the other person anymore, but you also can't see yourself. They broke that mirror. And now they're fumbling in the dark, desperate to find someone else to carry the blame they were never ready to face. But the mirror doesn't heal on command. And you learn to see yourself clearly, without their twisted reflection. Here's the thing, the pain they feel now. It's not about missing you. It's about missing the illusion they created while you were around. When you were there, they felt in control, superior even, their ego fed off your emotional energy. But now, with you gone, they're left alone with the one thing they've avoided their whole lives, their own unconscious screaming for acknowledgement. It's brutal. But it's fair. Projection always comes with a price. What was once your fault is now just raw pain, unfiltered and inescapable. They're staring into that cracked mirror, and for the first time, they see themselves, unmasked. And all it took was your silence. And now the shadow starts to scream. When you walk away, the unconscious loses its cover. The mask slips. The ego, once fed by blame and distraction, now drowns in its own emptiness. The irony? You didn't fight. You didn't beg. You just left. You healed. And that was enough to shatter their fragile illusion. But here's the haunting question, do they really miss you? Or do they just miss not feeling anything at all? That's the kind of truth that keeps the unconscious up at night, especially for those who fed off your light while running from their own darkness. The ego that needed you to stay broken. There's a quiet kind of manipulation that doesn't come in the form of shouting, it comes dressed as concern, validation, and even love. But beneath that mask lies an ego desperate to keep you where you were, small, confused, dependent. Why? Because your growth threatened their illusion of control. And the moment you started to heal, they started to panic. It's not that they wanted to hurt you. It's that they couldn't afford for you to wake up. Your pain served a purpose, it made them feel needed, powerful, central. But healing? Healing meant you no longer needed them to interpret your reality. And for people trapped in their own shadow, your freedom feels like abandonment. This is the paradox, they didn't want the real you. They wanted the version of you that kept their world stable. The one who apologized too much, who questioned their own sanity, who believed love was earned through suffering. That version made them feel righteous, superior, safe. So when you started questioning the narrative, they saw it as betrayal. Carl Jung spoke of the persona, the mask we wear for others. But some people don't just wear a mask. They build entire relationships around it. And when you saw behind the mask, when you started asking deeper questions, who am I without their approval? Why does their validation feel like a leash? That's when the emotional earthquake began. Look, it wasn't your job to stay broken just so someone else could feel whole. But when someone's identity is built on controlling others, your healing feels like violence. That's the sickness of an unchecked ego, it turns your transformation into their personal loss. But you were never theirs to fix. You were always yours to become. And here's the twist they never saw coming, the version of you they tried to control was just your cocoon. Now you've grown wings, and their hands can't hold what's learned to fly. But still, they whisper, you've changed. As if that's an insult. As if staying wounded was some kind of virtue. The question now is If your healing offends them, were they ever really in your corner? Or were they just in love with your wounds? The unconscious contract they never admitted to. Every toxic bond has an unspoken agreement: I'll stay broken if you keep pretending to care. It's silent, subtle, but soul-crushing. You played your part without even knowing it, absorbing blame, shrinking your truth, questioning your instincts. Why? Because part of you thought, maybe if I'm small enough, they'll finally love me right. That's not love. That's emotional hostage-taking. Jung believed the unconscious forms hidden contracts, psychic agreements that shape our behaviors until we bring them to light. And in your case, the contract was survival through silence, connection through compromise. But what happens when you start to remember who you are? The contract begins to crumble. Suddenly, you start speaking up, saying no, prioritizing peace over approval. And their response? Rage, confusion, withdrawal. Because breaking the contract means they no longer get what they signed up for, a version of you that made them feel comfortable, powerful, unchallenged. Here's the part they never expected: you weren't angry when you left. You were clear. There's a difference. Anger still hopes. Clarity doesn't. You saw the truth. They were more invested in the version of you that suffered than the version that soared. And that realization? That's what turned the contract to ashes. Now they're left with the ruins, not just of the relationship, but of the control they once had. They replay old conversations, trying to rewrite history in their mind. But it's too late. The old you doesn't live here anymore. And every memory they revisit now echoes with absence. So the loop continues. What do they really mourn? The connection you shared? Or the control they lost? When your absence becomes their mirror, there's a strange moment that happens after you walk away. They start to see you everywhere. In songs, in quotes, in passing conversations. But they're not just missing you, they're being haunted by the version of themselves they can't run from anymore. That's the hidden cost of projection. It always returns. You were the mirror. Not a perfect one, but a true one. When they mocked your sensitivity, they were rejecting their own. When they dismissed your needs, they were escaping their own emptiness. And now? Now there's no one left to distract them from their own reflection. That's not nostalgia. It's confrontation. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That understanding? It's knocking on their door now. And it doesn't knock softly. Their regrets aren't about what they did, it's about what they avoided. About who they refused to become while you were busy becoming. Absence does strange things to memory. It romanticizes, idealizes, even lies. But the truth always creeps in eventually. You were never the villain, just the mirror that cracked under pressure. And now, the only villain left is the one in their own reflection. Here's the irony: they couldn't stand your depth when you were near. But now, they drown in the shallow pool of their own avoidance. And the question that whispers louder with each passing day is this: what if I pushed away the one person who actually saw me? The inner pain they can't escape anymore. Time doesn't heal wounds, awareness does. And now, in the quiet aftermath of losing you, they're forced to sit with what they spent years running from, the raw, unfiltered inner pain. The kind that doesn't fade with distraction or denial. The kind that comes from a life built on shadows instead of truth. You see, when someone builds their world on projection, losing their mirror feels like identity death. They didn't just lose your presence, they lost their favorite illusion. And now, they're facing the fallout: sleepless nights, hollow interactions, the gnawing realization that maybe you weren't the problem. That's when it hits. Not all at once, but in slow, unbearable waves. The way you held space. The way you stayed, even when you were hurting. The way your love was never about control. And suddenly, the pain they projected onto you turns inward. But by then, it's too late. You've changed frequency. You no longer resonate with guilt-based love. You're not angry, you're just unavailable. Not as punishment, but as protection. You no longer negotiate with your own suffering for the sake of keeping others comfortable. And so the real pain sets in, not that they lost you, but that they never really knew you. They didn't lose you when you left. They lost you the moment they stopped listening. The moment they mistook your silence for surrender. Not strength. But here's the truth they can't escape anymore: you were never just a person in their life. You were the mirror. And they broke it. Now they sit in a room filled with echoes of your voice, your presence, your truth, and they finally feel what they made you carry for so long: the weight of being unseen. It hurts. But not because you're gone. It hurts because your departure revealed a truth they could never face while you were still there. So I'll leave you with this: If someone only sees your value once you've walked away, did they ever see you at all? Or were they just borrowing your light to avoid their own darkness? If this hit something inside you, share it in the comments. What did you walk away from? And what did you finally see clearly once you did? Subscribe to the channel, because this is just one step in the journey. We've got so much more to uncover. And next time, we'll dive even deeper into the unconscious patterns that keep us trapped in someone else's shadow.